It was supposed to be a calm, respectful televised discussion about judicial integrity, but what unfolded that evening shocked millions of Americans watching at home. The nation's Chief Justice, John Roberts, known for his composure and even temper, lost control in front of the cameras. Sitting across from him was Senator John Kennedy of Louisiana, a man equally known for his sharp wit, his Southern charm, and his unfiltered honesty. When Roberts raised his voice, the studio fell silent. What followed next wasn't just a clash of personalities, it was a rare, raw moment of truth about power, pressure, and the limits of civility in America's most sacred institutions. The tension began subtly. The televised panel was part of a national discussion on judicial ethics, a topic that had stirred controversy following a string of reports alleging conflicts of interest among Supreme Court justices. Roberts, usually a measured and careful speaker, had agreed to appear, perhaps hoping to calm the public debate. Senator Kennedy, on the other hand, had come prepared for confrontation. His Southern drawl might have sounded polite, but his questions cut deep. "Mr. Chief Justice," Kennedy began, his tone deceptively light, "how do you tell the American people to trust the system when it looks like the system doesn't even trust itself?" Roberts' expression hardened. Cameras zoomed in on his face, the tight jaw, the flicker of irritation in his eyes. He replied with carefully chosen words at first, defending the independence of the judiciary and warning against political attacks. But Kennedy pressed harder, accusing the court of losing touch with everyday Americans. Each question landed heavier than the last, echoing what so many citizens had been thinking but hadn't dared to say. Then, suddenly, Roberts snapped. His voice rose. "Senator, you are undermining the very foundation of our democracy." The words came sharp and loud, reverberating across the studio. Gasps could be heard from the audience. The Chief Justice of the United States, a man known for decades of restraint, they had shouted on live television. For a long, tense second, no one spoke. Roberts' chest heaved slightly as he tried to regain control. Kennedy just looked at him, silent and still. And then came the response that would go viral. "Chief Justice," Kennedy said quietly, "if the foundation of our democracy can't stand up to a few honest questions, then maybe it's not as strong as we think." The silence that followed was deafening. Roberts' face softened almost instantly, the anger draining, replaced by something that looked like regret. The cameras caught it all. Two powerful men, both patriotic in their own ways, both human in their frailty. Within hours, the clip spread across social media like wildfire. Hashtags like #Roberts meltdown and #Kennedy response dominated every platform. Some viewers sympathized with Roberts, saying the pressure of defending the nation's highest court had finally cracked his composure. Others hailed Kennedy's calm response as a moment of courage, a reminder that truth spoken softly can echo louder than anger ever could. Over the following days, the nation debated not just what had been said, but what it meant. Commentators replayed the moment frame by frame. Body language experts analyzed every gesture. But beyond the noise, something deeper began to stir. The confrontation had forced Americans to look again at their institutions, not as untouchable monuments, but as human systems built and run by imperfect people. Behind the scenes, sources close to both the men revealed that Roberts reached out to Kennedy privately. The two reportedly spoke for nearly an hour. While the details of their conversation were not made public, those familiar with the call said it ended with mutual respect, not agreement, but understanding. "We both want the same thing," one insider quoted Roberts as saying. "We just see different roads to get there." And perhaps that's the real story, not the shouting, not the viral clip, but what it revealed. Two leaders under immense pressure, facing a nation that often forgets how heavy the burden of leadership can be. Roberts' anger wasn't just directed at Kennedy, it was the outburst of a man trying to protect something sacred. Kennedy's calm wasn't arrogance, it was conviction, born of a belief that truth doesn't need to shout to be heard. In the days that followed, both the men used the moment as a turning point. Roberts called for a renewed code of ethics for the court, one that would rebuild public trust. Kennedy, meanwhile, delivered a speech on the Senate floor about the importance of accountability even among those wearing the black robe of justice. Their unlikely clash had become a catalyst, a reminder that democracy, at its best, grows stronger through discomfort. By the end of the week, millions had watched the clip. But what stayed with people wasn't the shouting, it was the silence afterward. The image of Roberts, momentarily humbled, and Kennedy, steady in his calm, became a metaphor for the nation itself, divided, emotional, yet still capable of listening. And as one commentator wrote in The Atlantic, perhaps the most American thing about that moment wasn't the argument, it was the way they found their humanity again after it was over. The confrontation that began in anger ended in reflection. It reminded viewers everywhere that passion and civility don't have to be enemies, that even in the heat of conflict, there is room for grace. Because sometimes, the loudest moment in history isn't the shout, it's what comes after, when we finally start to understand each other. 3.